What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel, and today we are capping off our Hidden Gems videos, or our Hidden Gems series here from Madden 21 with the safeties. Now, we're going to be talking about 11 players today that I think are players that you guys should absolutely be seeking to help make your team better here in Madden 21. We're talking about guys that are either athletic or big hitters, guys that can make an impact at that safety position and really boost up your secondary by making one simple move and acquiring these players. So with that being said, the first player we're going to talk about is on the Browns, and actually there's two players on the Browns here that I want to mention. With the drafting of Grant Delpit, yes, I know he's injured right now at the current point in time, but Sheldrick Redwine, being thrust into that essentially starting position on the Madden roster, Sheldrick Redwine is a very good player to add to your team if you can get your hands on him. Very athletic, he's got really good acceleration with 92 excel. He is a good combination of age and overall as a 69 overall 23-year-old. So realistically speaking, you could acquire him, bring him into your team, and you could probably play him at either the free safety or strong safety position and mold him into whatever type of player you want to be. So I wanted to start off strong there with somebody that's a good athlete, and then with the second player who is also on the Browns, I want to talk about Ronnie Harrison Jr. Ronnie Harrison Jr. traded over from the Jaguars, is a player that I've liked for a while, but this is going to be more of a run stuffer, a run support safety, somebody that's a little bit more of a big hitter. This is a player that I like if you're looking for a player of that type of caliber, and the reason that I think that he would be available is because they have Carl Joseph starting over top of him. But a couple of things to note about that: if you're specifically going after Ronnie Harrison, they still maintain Sheldrick Redwine, who is another athletic player that they could potentially start at that position. Ronnie Harrison Jr. is 23 years old and a 76 overall. I would be very much willing to give up, a half decent price to get him in order to add him to my team if that was specifically what I was looking for, more of a run support type of safety. Yes, he's a little bit on the slower side, but you can boost that up because he's only 23 years old, and if you upgrade him as a hybrid or a zone, you will start to get some of those athletic upgrades, and he'll be more of a viable starting safety for you. I highly recommend you check him out or keep on the lookout for him. The next safety that we're going to talk about, and again, there are going to be two players on this team, we're going to be talking about free safety Jalen Thompson. Now, why do I say Jalen Thompson is on this list when he's listed as the first free safety for the Cardinals? Well, they have Budda Baker, and if this team decides to play Isaiah Simmons at safety, Isaiah Simmons is the clear choice at free safety, or potentially Budda Baker is, and you just play Isaiah Simmons at strong safety. Either way, if they choose to play these two players at safety, then that leaves the Thompsons as available players for you guys to trade for. Jalen Thompson is a very good combination at 22 years old, 73 overall, and then he has reasonable athleticism to go with that. And the second player that I'm going to talk about on this team is a more similar player, but a little bit more of a big hitter. I wanted to say a more similar player to Ronnie Harrison. Deontay Thompson, another Alabama safety, 23 years old, 70 overall. He is very clearly towards the bottom of the depth chart here, and somebody that you could add to your team. You could start him and turn him into a really good player. As a 23-year-old, he has a lot of room to grow, and the same can be said for Jalen Thompson. These guys are both potentially available, and you guys should certainly be inquiring to the Cardinals in your league to try and acquire them if you want to add a impact safety or a player that you can develop to your team. The next one that we're going to talk about is actually going to be on the Washington football team, and you guys probably already know who it is before I even talk about them. This is going to be Troy Apke. Troy Apke is, one of the more broken players that's going to be on this list at 25 years old, 66 overall. He should realistically be a higher overall because he is actually a pretty good player. If you start off with my roster, he'll be in the 70s because he is actually a respectable starter. But with that being said, he's got 94 speed, 94 agility, 95 acceleration, very, very athletic safety, and probably the most athletic player on this list, if I'm not mistaken. If you're looking for a pure athlete, if you're looking for somebody that can play all around your secondary, potentially help you out as a cornerback, this is the player to go out and acquire. Very, very good player. He is 25 years old, so he's on the verge of not really making it on this list, but somebody that you need to know his name. If you don't know his name already, I'm sure you already do. So we're not going going to spend too much time on him. We're going to move on to my next player, which is actually going to be on the 49ers. We're going to talk about Tarvarius Moore. Now, this player isn't necessarily going to be super easy to get because he is a very similar athlete to Troy Apke. He does lack a little bit in the agility department, but he is very fast with 93 speed, 92 acceleration, and again, well, I mean, I guess we could say he's kind of in a similar position to the football team, but Jimmy Ward is sitting in front of him, and this could go two different ways. You know, they could be looking to move on from Jimmy Ward because he's getting up there in age, or they could say, well, I have an established starter, you know, offer me something decent for Tarvarius Moore, and I'll give him to you. So I think you guys should at least know his name because he's a very good athlete, somebody that you could bring in and develop into somebody decent. You know, he's not a starter for his team or anything like that, and there's not a whole lot of depth on this team, but he might be a little bit difficult to get if this team is saying, okay, well, Jimmy Ward's getting up there in age, so is Tart. We don't really have much depth here. Maybe we should keep Tarvarius Moore around and develop him into our long-term starter. In either case, you should know his name and be ready to snag him up if he becomes available. The next player we're going to talk about is on the Giants, and there's a couple reasons why we're going to be talking about Julian Love. Julian Love, I think, is one of my favorite players. I've utilized him in many, many franchises. He's very effective. I've turned him into a very, very high-level player at points in time, and that's just simply based on his age and overall combination alone. At 22 years old, 73 overall, but he's also reasonably athletic, and you can turn him into a really, really good safety. But with the drafting of Xavier McKinney and Logan Ryan already being there in front of him, as well as Jabril Peppers, this team really doesn't have room to play Julian Love, and he is absolutely going to be available for you guys, and I would personally be making a run at him if I wanted a safety. This is one of my top players on this list because this is somebody that I've used before, and he plays really, really well. The next player on this list is going to be on the Jags, and you guys might be a little bit surprised by this one, but it's Andrew Wingard. This guy plays really well, and he honestly is a little bit slow. Yeah, he's got that 87 speed. You know, he has 90 acceleration. He's only got 87 agility, but this is a player that at 23 years old, 66 overall, I've taken him in a pinch, and I've turned him into a pretty good starting safety. Now, there's something to, you know, be aware of here, is that this guy oftentimes becomes available in franchises because he's such a low overall, and he's not super athletic. So he could very well be free for you guys. You know, you could probably pick him up in free agency. You might be able to pick him up off of the practice squad, but there's really no reason for him to be playing over top of rookies like Daniel Thomas and young guys like Josh Jones that are more athletic, or Gerard Wilson. Andrew Wingard, though, is a pretty good player, and he plays pretty effectively when given the chance. So I would at least keep his name in the back of your mind, and if you see him out there on someone's practice squad or you see him in free agency, give him a shot, try him out, because I've had a lot of success with Andrew Wingard personally, and this is one that's a little bit of an oddity on the list. Now, the next player we're going to talk about is on the Seahawks. We're going to be talking about Marquise Blair, and the reason that we're going to talk about him, they just have so many good players on this team in the secondary, and with Quandre Diggs being here, Jamal Adams coming over, young guys like Lano Hill and Ryan Neal that are athletes sitting up in front of him, as well as Demarius Randall being around. There's just no room to play Marquise Blair. Yes, he is injured right now at this point in time, but a 23-year-old, 71 overall with 90 speed, 91 acceleration, that's as good as you're going to get, you know, in terms of these hidden gem type players. And if you can find him and add him to your team, he would be a valuable asset. And not only that, you're not going to get much better than that, you know, in the later rounds of the draft or anything like that. So this is a very worthwhile player if you can add him. And he doesn't really have much value to the Seahawks roster at this point in time. So I would highly recommend that you guys keep him on your list as well, and make sure that you at least know who his name is. The next player that we're going to talk about is probably my favorite player on this list, but mostly just because I'm so familiar with him, and pretty much every year I get him and turn him into a superstar. Terrell Edmunds, 23 years old, 74 overall, just a very, very good athlete, and you know, 90 speed, 90 acceleration. He's not the biggest athlete in the world in terms of his agility and change of directions and things like that, but he is a very, very good box safety. He's more of a strong safety type of player, a traditional strong safety, but he has very good speed and acceleration to go with it. So this is a player that if you're looking for somebody that's more of a run support safety, somebody that's going to come up and make big hits and things like that, this is who you want to look for. This is probably your number one option as that type of a safety, because he can come up and fill those gaps and he makes big hits and he's a really good run stopping safety. So I wouldn't necessarily look for him to play like a free safety role or a zone coverage type of role, but I would absolutely look for him more as a run support type of safety, and probably the best run support safety option that you guys could go out and get on the market. So highly recommend you guys go out and check out Terrell Edmunds. I love him. He's a fantastic player in Madden, and I always turn him into a very, very good starter. And then the last player on this list that I couldn't pass up putting on this list is actually going to be a free agent. We're going to be talking about free safety Monte Nicholson. Monte Nicholson is 24 years old. He's a 70 overall. You can't get much better than this in free agency. He's got 92 speed. He's got 91 acceleration. He's not the most agile guy in the world. Again, a player that you might want to play a little bit more like a run support safety because he is a little bit less agile than most other guys, but a player that, you know, you can't beat that if you're looking for something free or something really cheap. Monte Nicholson will be out there if you're starting up a franchise right now, and this is a plug and play type of player. You can bring him into your squad, you can start him at free safety, and you can turn him into a long-term solution at that position. There's not much more to be said about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this series. If you guys did find any help in this series whatsoever, I want you guys to hit that like button, comment down below with anything you'd like to see next, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Your feedback and your support of the channel means everything to me. I can't thank you guys enough, and I'm proud to be finishing up this series now and on to the next series. Not sure what we're going to be doing next, but very happy to be finishing this one up and being able to provide this information for you guys. So I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great night. I'll see you in the next one.